Oh yeah, the system is working for him.
Yeah, they're using
And it's working against me.
And if you're a tenant, you can get away with it, like not paying rent for a year now.
Kevin Costain knows from experience what Yvonne's going through. He wrote a book about the pitfalls of renting out your home. A family member of Costain's tenant set fire to his house, which had to be rebuilt.
And I will tell you, as a landlord that's been burned like I have, I cannot do it again. I just can't.
When I think about some of the more horrific rental stories that I've heard some people's situation upwards of two years of no rental payment, and that person is still living in their house. And I think a part of that challenge is, or part of the reason is because I can speak for Canada, more specifically Ontario, is most of the laws are in the favor of tenants.
Because, like, I mean, I can see several loopholes, just like as you said. I don't have to pay the 20%. I can get it in the 5, and then some wiggle. So maybe he doesn't want to. He doesn't.
That's just the creative. They are creative ways.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the show. On this episode of the show, I'm going to be following the last episode with Tunde. He's going to be in here in a minute. We talked about the popular video of a Nigerian saying you should buy an investment property in the US.
Listen, you don't buy a house in America to pay it off. You buy a house in America for financial sustainability.
North America or Canada before you invest in Nigeria. And some of those advice kind of sounds good on the surface, but people have done it and they've gotten burned. And we're going to be showing you a particular woman that her family actually did do that. They followed the advice. They got a property, they put on the rent, and it almost totally wrecked them. And we're just going to be also, balancing it and telling you the good, also the not so good part of it. So I'll be joined here by my very, very, how would I call him now?
Good friend, man. I thought we're friends. I'm not sure why there's a confusion there, but at least now I know where I stand. Right?
Investor, maestro, as an industry aficionado, and anything about investment in diaspora, like having that balance. I always he's the go-to, and you guys seem to also love him on this channel. Giving our video lots of love. Thank you so very much. So welcome to the today, Tunde, and how's your day been?
Not bad, man. Not bad. Welcome today, Tunde. Try to say that 5 times.
Welcome today. It's a tongue twister. Welcome today. It's a tongue twister. I know, right? But we have a very interesting one today, and I can't wait to jump into it. And you, as an investor there, and to see the issue of people that did everything right. They did their due diligence. They did every single thing right, but sometimes life happens.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's an interesting video, and there's a lot of lessons learned for sure. And I love when we're able to kind of just dive into this different kind of topics and give different perspectives on just how things are over here. In honestly diaspora, Canada, US, even in the UK as well for the most part. And I always love this kind of conversation. So I'm definitely ready to dive in if you are.
Yep, I'm ready as well. Let's go there.
All right.
Challenging, and it's depressing. It's hard.
Yvonne Folks and her husband rented out their only home and now regret it. To this man, Herman Fuyape Dekono, seen here. But a year later, Yvonne and her family wanted to move back in and told him.
So I think, to me, the first thing that I would say is the newscaster said that they rented out their only home. So obviously we don't have much background details, but I can only suspect that maybe they went out on a vacation, they were out of town for a while, and the home where they live they tried to they listened to probably some guys on the internet that said, why are you just going to be paying rent when you're not going to be around? Paying your mortgage, rent it out, get that income. But this person started to default on the rent. So I think that's the first thing which I would just say before we actually go into it. Have a place that you live, a place that you call home. Don't get too greedy. And even if you want to rent out the place that you call home, probably you have the basement that you rent out, but have the place that you don't touch. This is where I stay till I'm willing and ready to move out of here. This is my house. It's a no-go area.
Yeah, you definitely can. You can't just rent out your primary place of living and hope that whenever you're ready to come back, it's just gonna be there for you. It's just gonna be there for you to move in like it's an open vacancy, like an open vacancy spot, right? Like if you're gonna do that kind of thing, then my friend, good luck to you, man. Definitely, I agree with you. There is, I would advise against that, right? If you have a place that you're living, that's your place of living. And if you're gonna rent that out, then you definitely should be having backup plans and knowing for sure that it's not guaranteed that when you want it, the place will be available. Now, ultimately, it is your place, so in the long run or whatever the case may be, that place will be yours. But if you're someone who maybe want to rent out your primary place of staying, because you're traveling, whatever the case may be, then you're taking a risk of not having that place ready for you when you come back, right? The other strategy obviously would be to put it up on an Airbnb or perhaps a shoplet is what they call it in Nigeria as well, right? Where you can have whether that's long-term rental, but with a specific defined date of like ending time, as opposed to having a long-term tenured tenant, which is a thing that we have here in Canada, where you can rent a place for a whole year. That's the first tenure, and then after that, it becomes month to month.
Yeah.
Told him so, exercising their legal rights. Fuyape refused to leave and hasn't paid any rent since last October, 7 months.
You don't pay the rent. This is not your house.
I pay the rent.
When Yvonne and a real estate agent showed up for a property inspection.
Can you call the
Step
police,
out.
please?
No, you call the.
So 7 months. That's quite a long time.
Holy smokes! Yeah, 7 months of no rent payment, man. That's ridiculous. And that's actually, when I think about some of the more horrific rental stories that I've heard some people's situation upwards of two years of no rental payment, and that person is still living in their house. And I think a part of that challenge part of the reason is because I could speak for Canada, more specifically Ontario, is most of the laws are in the favor of tenants, right? You have governing bodies, you have a tenancy act that specifically look after the tenant in a more favorable ways, right? Like now, obviously, the landlords also do have some protections, but in terms of the government stance, they're looking after fair housing is kind of what they call it. So they put together all this governing act and all this landlord and tenant board and all these people that really make these laws to look after tenants. And in theory, right, if a tenant is not paying their rent, you can have them evicted. But that eviction process is where the problem is, right? Because it's not just a situation where this person misses 1 month payment. I can just go there, show up with police, tell them they're moving out, and that's the end of that, right? That's not the case. You have to give them well in advance notice. I'm talking months of notice in a lot of cases, first of all. And after that month has lapsed, if they still choose to continue on not paying that rent, then you have to go to the landlord and tenant board, right? Where you are in most cases reporting the situation to that board, telling them what's going on and XYZ. That process again is another tedious, long process.
Drawn out process,
right? Drawn process. And then even when they then get to your case, they have to hear both sides. They have to understand what's going on, right? Again, adding more time and more time and more time. So the eviction process in itself, for a lot of landlords, they don't even want to go through it, right? They don't want to go through it because they know the headache that's going to come with it. So oftentimes you find landlords having to compromise and making some kind of agreements directly with the tenants, which again, in oftentimes is going to favor the tenants because the tenants is going to dictate the terms because they know that the landlord is trying to avoid the long tedious process, right? So it's these are all things that you definitely just have to keep in mind when you're thinking about investment in diaspora and thinking about rentals and renting your properties out. You could go a situation like this where 7 months of nothing.
And just imagine if that person is paying a mortgage on that property. So you're literally paying for another. You're working for the other person. Yes.
And the worst part is even after you go through that whole process of trying to get them evicted and XYZ, there is no guarantee that you will be able to recoup all of those money that this person has been owing you for the 7 months or however long it's been. There's no guarantee that you'll be able to recoup that, right? So usually when you're looking to get like a rental property or like put your house out for rental, which first of all, I think I was mentioning in our last video that I feel like I'm talking a lot, but in our last video, I had mentioned that when you want to purchase a property in Canada, you have to put a minimum of 5% deposit down in order to get that property, right? In the case of rental, you need to put down a minimum of 20% in order to get that property. So the math that I did the last time of if you're getting a house of 800,000, you need, I don't know what 5% of that is, 20K or whatever that math is.
Yeah, 40K.
40K, right?
Yeah.
Now that 40K is no longer 40K if you want to use that property for rental, right? That 40K is now 40 times 4, right? Which is 160K, whatever the case may be, because you need a minimum of 20% down payment.
If it's going to be a rental property.
Yes. So the law is different for rental property versus residential property. So if you want to live in residential property, then you can do a minimum of 5% down payment. If you know you are going to be using that property for investment, then you need to do a minimum of 20% down payment, right? So if you're getting a house of 800K, 5% down payment if you're using it for residential, 40K. But if you're going to use it for residential property, then that's 160K that you're going to have to put down for down payment, if my math is correct, right?
Yeah.
So again, you're doing 160K on a property that could go in this kind of situation where 160K can get you a property in Nigeria that you don't have to worry about paying back every month, right? And you can actually rent it out, and this person is pretty much just giving you money every month.
Plus the capital appreciation
that's gonna come. From
I think there was even a case. Maybe if I actually find that, I'm gonna put it on the B-roll. This Fayoshe's son.
3 years. 4 years. Wicked you. Now they stress my life. Now I go remove everything. Everything we go remove. Next time when you now make you now think I go come out your roof. They owe me rent. They owe 4 years. You no pay your rent. You carry me go court. For 4 years. I'm the only landlord in this Abuja that gave all the tenants rent-free period, COVID time. Now they don't want to move. 4 years, 10 rents. No, today not today. Call today. Don't feel now. Hey, you need to see me.
It did happen, and we were discussing it like before this video about like during COVID, like lots of people. And I mean, it's also good for us to also put ourselves in the other person's shoes. Like obviously this guy that's here, as we'll find out, is an obnoxious guy. But some people are just kind of like in a really, really bad situation that they did not plan. As a lot of people were during COVID, they lost their jobs, and the government, and like you said, and lots of landlords, the fire son, he said he actually let everybody not pay, all of his tenants not pay during that time. And afterward, he was in Abuja. A particular family were not paying rent, and they took him to court. And this case was still in court. I feel like I've shared it, but this guy felt like, so for my own house, you did take me go court. He literally got boys, and they removed the roof from that particular property. He said, okay, you could stay, but you're not going to have any roof. But you can't do that in the diaspora. You cannot try that. You can't force yourself and try to use police or use whatever to evict people. You still have to follow the law. And then you said something about like even Canada, even in the US, there's in the UK rather, there's the renters bill that also protects the tenant. You have to go through the the entire process, and eventually you may have to still go to court, and then you're spending fees there even to try to just get this person out. And then it's also another ball game of trying to get the person to pay. So these are things that people should know before they go into investment.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, let's jump back into the video.
Oh my God!
Fuyapi got physical.
You cannot do that. You cannot do that.
And if you're a tenant, you can get away with it, like not paying rent for a year now.
Kevin Costain knows from experience what Yvonne's going through. He wrote a book about the pitfalls of renting out your home. A family member of Costain's tenant set fire to his house, which had to be rebuilt.
And I will tell you, as a landlord that's been burned like I have, I cannot do it again. I just can't. I can't possibly go there.
Fuyapi drives this new pickup and owns.
Okay.
Hold on, Uche, before you even go, there was something that the tenant said that I just didn't want to interrupt. I didn't want to interrupt the video. The tenant literally said, call the police.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard that part. The guy said, call the police as per, bring them here. I know my rights. Sorry, I just had to laugh.
Yeah, that's, and I mean, we'll see later that the police actually does come, and their hands are tied. But what I even want to say is that there's risk. People should not speak uncertainty in saying, I had somebody comment in the video, our last video that we did recently, don't invest in, only buy something you're going to live in. When you make statements like that, you there's risk everywhere. If there was no risk, it will not be an investment. And obviously, we're still going to talk about, even in the diaspora, how can you, because, today's going to tell us how to protect yourself, because there are ways to protect yourself. Obviously, it's still not going to be 100%, but there are ways to protect yourself to see that this doesn't happen. But there's risk everywhere. There's political risk in Nigeria. There's inflation risk. There's devaluation risk. There's this risk in the US. There's the risk of the market crashing. There's a lot of risk. In fact, I was talking to somebody yesterday, my teacher from school, and he was telling me about how he has this property that he sold for a 7K profit, but the company that he sold to had to sell it because they only use new build, sell it lower than what he initially got 5 years ago. He got it 128K. They had to sell it for 117K because they didn't want to hold it like for a very long time. So the people that are saying, oh, invest here, don't invest there, you cannot for certainty say that there's literally zero risk involved. Everybody needs to be able to assess their risk and see how they could mitigate it. So yeah, that's something I just wanted to bring out there, because this guy is now saying he has been burned before and he's never doing it again. So this guy, if he's going to comment, he say don't ever invest in Canada, don't ever invest in the UK. So I feel like we should be more open to other people's views and like where people are coming from, and not use our own ideas and ideologies to just make blanket statements.
Yeah, can be making definite statements, man, when it comes to investments, right? Everyone has to consider their own situation and do their own parts, obviously, to protect themselves. But there's no guarantees when it comes to any of this, right? It's obviously overall and holistically speaking, holistically and historically, right? Like real estate has been the safest form of investment when you're comparing it to crypto and stock and things, bonds and things to that extent, because people will always need a place to live.
Yeah.
That's just the fundamental of it all. But even within that, we still can't make any guarantees or any definite statements as far as the investment is concerned, because to your point, then it's not an investment, right? So we all are investors, and we know that that's going to come with risk, and it's just how much can we tolerate, and what works best for your own specific situation.
Definitely. Okay, let's go back to it.
All right, call the police.
It's a trucking business. We wanted to find out why Fuyapi refuses to pay or move away.
You cannot record me.
Fuyapi's partner gets upset when we show up to ask questions. Global news, it's television.
I don't care.
Herman Fuyapi won't come out. Herman, it's Sean O'Shea with Global News. The police are called.
You should come and ask first.
Yvonne watches from the sidewalk. Fuyapi eventually agrees to talk. Have you paid any rent since last October?
No.
Very quickly, you know what's crazy is the police can literally come to his front door, knock on his front door, and if he refuses to come out, they cannot go inside the house.
They can't force themselves.
No, they can't, right? And that's why they said that eventually he chooses to talk. I mean, like, pay attention to the keywords that's coming out of this. Video, right? He is now choosing to entertain and talk to the police.
Yeah. I did a video quite many months ago about how people should consider investing in Nigeria over the UK, and I talked about the regulations, and somebody said, "Oh, are you now saying you are going to do things anyhow?" But if you want a lawful society like the West, there are just some, would I say, privileges or whatever that Nigerians think they have or they're experiencing now, that you won't have that privilege when you can't see somebody that you don't agree with and attack that. You can't try a lot of things that we feel like is our right to do. This is your house and the tenant is behaving this way. And I saw somebody that told me that I want to invest in Nigeria because for Nigeria you can cut corners. you can cut corners. And obviously we are also seeing it in the wave of this recent demolitions. People are, you can only build 5 floors. They go and bribe somebody. They go to 8 floors, 10 floors. The guy that did that, they gave him 15. He went to 21 floors, but it's a different ball game. So if that's the kind of like mentality that you're used to, you just need to reorient yourself and realize that it's a different ball game here.
Absolutely. All right,
let's get back to the video.
Because she's the one who told me she doesn't want me to pay.
He's just a liar. That's what he is.
But why did you refuse to leave?
But I'm not to leave because why I have to leave? You cannot come and tell me because I told her I can live in summer.
He says he's building a house in Hamilton, but it's not ready yet. Hey, Herman, it sounds like you know the system.
Of course. Why I don't know? It's normal. I have to know.
Know the system.
Know the law.
That's right.
I feel like the guy Loki was dropping bars. Of course I know this. Any system that you're in, it's always good to know the law so that you take full advantage. I mean, that's why people don't pay. There's tax evasion and there's tax, what's the other name? There's the ethical name for it. Because life is so funny, the things you can get away with by just knowing the law. You know, and this guy was, I mean, his English was not perfect, but probably he has a lawyer or someone that is advising him, and they've told him, my brother, you're well within your rights to just carry go.
Yeah, the guy said he's building a house in Amity, which, by the way, is another city here in Canada. And my guy, they use tenant money here, saving it.
In a saver. But then again, like, there's no even way we can verify that. You know, it's still his word, because at the point in time, he said she told him that he could stay there, and she's saying he's a liar. At this point, it's his word against her word. Yeah, like, what can you really do?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to the video.
Oh yeah, the system is working for him.
Yeah, they're using it.
And it's working against me.
Peel police are powerless to help the couple.
No, you're a liar. You're a liar. You are a liar. You are a liar. You're shame.
He owes more than $22,000 in back rent. Do you have any intention of paying her the money that you owe her?
We're going to go to the court.
Do you have any intention of paying her?
We're going to go to the court, and the judge going to decide.
A landlord and tenant board hearing is scheduled.
What did they call it in Canada? In US is the Fifth Amendment rights. What did they call it? Don't say more than is necessary. Lawyer, once you're caught in a crime, don't say more than is necessary. The court will decide.
Yeah.
My lawyer will. Yeah. And I feel like that was so like smart of him. You know, are you gonna pay? Let the court decide, you know, so that he doesn't also even say anything that will incriminate him later.
Right. But the confidence, man, I think that's what's standing out to me. Is the confidence of, let's go to court. Let's not decide. This man is owing over $20,000.
Yeah.
In
has a down payment for a house.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. I was just giving you the math. Right?
Yeah.
Like 5% down payment. Yeah. Like, you're damn close to that. You can get a nice condo, 1 bedroom, everything for $400K and $20K, $20K down payment. Yeah, no, it's absolutely ridiculous. And like, just the audacity, man. Like, the audacity, his confidence, and even the police that showed up self. The guy is literally shoving him back inside the house. Like, bro, I think let's go back. Like, the police put him back, say, go back inside your house. Go back inside your house. Like, it's and you're right? You can see them already kind of combating. He say, she say, each say, she say. And I hope that that's not the kind of agreement that they have, is a handshake level of agreement, because if it's he say, she say, and they go to court, you can almost guarantee he's gonna win, right? Like, the way the law is set up again for the tenants, and how favorable it is, you can almost guarantee if it's a he said, she said situation. I
think somebody even talked about the fact that, like, I mean, obviously we don't know, like, was he even ethnic? We're gonna get to that. Like, oh, this person is from my ethnic group or whatever. You know, what was actually the background check that was done before I gave this house to this person, like, and also seeing that it was also a temporary stuff, and it was their primary residence. You know, maybe it wouldn't have been a very, like, grueling process. And, you know, to ask you now, you did say that if you were getting an investment property, you would pay more initial deposit by the law than if it was a residential stuff that owner occupied you're going to stay in. So what does the law say about converting where, like, a residential property that I'm staying in, converting it to an investment property? What does the law say on that?
Yeah, it's obviously there's so much. There's only but so much that I can share, because, you know, a lot of these things, there's definitely creative solutions, but I will say that as far as the law is concerned, you know, once you've already purchased the property, right? If the main claim on the property is that it's primarily used for residential, right? And during that time, then you rent out maybe a portion of the property or whatever the case may be. Then you're still fine. It's whenever that property becomes primarily used for rental purposes, then that's when kind of like the 20% law kind of comes into play, right? I'll leave it at that. Again, just creative. Around a lot of things,
because I can see several loopholes, just like as you said. I don't have to pay the 20%. I can get it in the 5 and then some wiggle. So maybe he doesn't want to. He doesn't.
That's just the creative. There are creative ways.
That's good. All right, let's get back to the video.
No be me. You go put for trouble for
for early next month. In the meantime, there's nothing they can do to get their home back or the money they're owed.
We need them out. We need the house. And we need them to pay the rent because they need to pay.
They'll have to wait a few more weeks for that hearing, and even if Yvonne and her husband prevail and the tenant is ordered out, it could take several more weeks before the sheriff would be called in to carry out an eviction, all because of the backlog. And as for back rent, it's unlikely the couple will be able to get any or all of that money back. Alan.
So frustrating for them.
That was another funny moment, man. Because even as the reporter was saying it, it's like it could take another couple weeks for the hearing, and then even after the hearing, they may not this is the reality, Uche. I'm telling you, this is the reality. This backlog when it comes to court cases being heard, right? Meaning by the time you put in a request to see a judge or whatever the case may be, like the guy said, it's gonna take a couple of weeks, and by a couple of weeks that could mean 6 months, 7 months, whatever the case may be. And again, before you even get to the point where you're going through the judge, they're gonna ask you if you've already went through the tenant and landlord association already, right? So again, another process, right? So there's just compounded issues, right? When it comes to trying to
and she's trying to do two things. She's first of all trying to get him out, which she can't do. She's also trying to get her money, which he even said is like that's why he ended. He said it's less than likely that she would even get that money or even a portion of it, which is kind of sad. And when we talk about this, is what people need to know the reality of investing in the diaspora. It's not any helpless, but as far as protecting oneself for prospective investors, that the Nigerians in diaspora, like other people that are maybe watching, and they want to avoid something like this. What are the what steps should one take really to avoid having such grueling experience?
There's a couple of things that you can do to try to mitigate this kind of issue from happening, right? First thing first is understand the community that you're investing in, right? So what I mean is, what kind of neighborhood is it? What are the kind of people that's living there, right? So do a thorough research on the community, do a thorough research on the neighborhood, and understand the profile, right, of everyone that's living there, so that you can there are assumptions that you can make based on the profile of people that's living in those communities, right?
Are there resources or people can go online to do that? Because in the UK, I know we have CoStar. So CoStar, you can actually find out average income of people that live here, the demographics of the people that live here, the number of male, working class, employed, what have you. You have that in Canada as well.
Yeah, Canada and the US, right? I think the first stop, if you're a US investor, you probably want to look at bigger pockets. They have a lot of resources on just neighborhood profile, tenant management, property management, and things to that extent. If you're in Canada, there's YE, there's Zoocasa, there's a bunch of platforms that you can really use to get that level of information on your neighborhood and the kind of profile of people that's living there. And to me, that's the first thing that you want to do, right? And then once you understand the profile of people that's living there, or the profile of the community, then you also want to understand the profile of the person that's applying to be a tenant, right? What's their work history? What's their credit history? And one thing about the associations that I mentioned, right, like the landlord and tenant associations and things like that, is if there's ever any dispute that's went through this kind of associations, there's always a record of it, right? So you can pull in the record of that person's profile to see if there's ever been any landlord disputes that was reported against them, if there's any law cases that was reported against them. And not for nothing, there are literally companies that have made businesses out of running tenant profile for you, right? So they will take the burden of doing due diligence. Some of them would even go as far as giving you guarantees that if the tenant default, they'll look after you for X period of time, right? So that's another thing that you can do, is just really due diligence on the profile of the person that's applying for the place. The other thing you can do, obviously, is insurance, right? So you can insure yourself as a landlord. You can look at different insurance solutions that can look after default payment or lack of payment from your tenant and things like that. There are companies that can look after that for you. And last but definitely not least is making sure that you have actual agreements in place and not just word of mouth and handshake of this is someone that's from the same background as me, so I trust them kind of agreement. Make sure that there's pen to paper enforced by the law and the lawyer that's going to look after that agreement for you, right? So I think these are some of the things that you can do to definitely try to mitigate this kind of situation from happening.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. And I think we kind of have a balanced view. We are getting there. We always talk about things that happen in Nigeria, demolitions, this one taking your property, or the lady that we first of all talked about, how they changed her unit and what have you. But we also need to be aware of all of the risks that are involved. Lots of Nigerians and lots of foreigners in the diaspora, they are looking to own homes, and it's not cheap. I saw a comment where somebody was saying she was paying more than 4K in mortgages, monthly mortgage payments, and the tenants they're not paying. So she did have to just sell that property, cut her losses, and move. So
even sometimes when they're paying, sorry, not to cut you off, right?
Yeah.
Even sometimes when they're paying, because we're just kind of talking about that today too, with interest rates, because they just cut interest rates by 2.5 basis points here in Canada. And even sometimes when your renters are paying, if you have a variable interest rate that changes, depending on what the central bank or Bank of Canada decides to do with interest rates, you might find yourself in a situation where, let's say you bought a property at a 4% interest rate, you rented out that property based on that interest rate as of that time. So your renter has locked in this price, and let's say a couple of months after that, interest rate goes up, whatever the case may be. You might actually find yourself in a situation where you're coming out of pocket to make up for the difference between what your tenant is paying versus what the new interest rate is, right? So again, these are things that you also have to consider when you're purchasing property.
So people think about these things, and then they're able to make their decision. Oh, do I invest in US? Do I invest in Canada? Do I invest in the UK? Or do I invest back home where at least I have my property, not making any payments, and I know that there's capital appreciation, and it's also somewhere that probably I'm seeing lots of people doing homes where they want to live, and when they're not around, they could put it on Airbnb, you could put it on Shortlet, and what if you have a property manager there. So there are a wide range of things to consider, and then as we get more and more of these perspectives, we'll definitely be bringing them to you. Thank you so much, Tunde. Once again, today was a very, very good one. Thank you for your insights, letting us know for those that would soon be thinking of investing abroad as well. Let me just say too that we are not saying don't invest. We are just giving you I hope that's not what you're taking from this. We are just giving you like the wide range of new things to consider. And like he has given us like insurance, taking like the profile, every single thing you need to do so that you don't find yourself in such a sad, helpless position where you are literally locked out of your own house. And if she has not finished making payments for that house, she's just literally paying for somebody else. And hopefully we don't get to that position. So thank you so very much for watching. Kindly like, kindly share, kindly subscribe. Here on a home, believe owning a home, owning a property should not make you lose sleep. So we're committed to giving the very best property recommendations and inside the real estate is. Till we see you again. You can actually tell us what you want us to talk about in the comment section, and I'll be reading, he will be reading, and we'll see you at the very next video. Bye-bye.
Yes.